Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is a very odd endowment program. A big thank you to Erin for running the technology on this, because if she couldn't figure this out, we wouldn't be doing it this way. So I really appreciate her help in doing it. Let me change my view. So as Erin mentioned, this program is being recorded and will be available on the library's website. I'm also posting, with Erin's help, some short videos of some of the endowment books. If you don't know that the library's got a YouTube site, we do. So you can go onto YouTube and just search for Salem Public Library, or you can access it through the library's website. There's a link to it, and you will see a whole bunch of videos that we've done for all kinds of topics, and there will be some endowment book videos on it. A list of all the endowment books will be posted as a PDF on the library's website, so you can get a list on the website. There will also be some hard copies printed out and placed with the book page newsletters that we put out by the curbside pickup. So if you've been using the curbside pickup at all, you know where that is. There's a box. We've got various newsletters and things in there, and I'll have a whole bunch of copies of the endowment list in there if you want to just get a hard copy. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a very unusual year. If any of you have come to the endowment programs in the past, you know that I usually would talk for about 10 minutes or so about what endowment is, and then you would just be turned loose to look at all these books laid out on the tables, and you could peruse them and then check them out if you wanted, and typically took about an hour to do that. Well, of course we can't do that. So this program is going to consist of me telling a little bit about the endowment and also showing you some specific book covers. This is not best books, so I'm not going to be doing a big description of the books. I'm going to be saying, you know, these are some of the new cookbooks we have, and showing you what the cover looks like. And then you can go and look at the endowment list, and so hopefully you don't have to take notes all through this, but maybe you will. Okay, so just a little bit of history, of course. The endowment was established in the early 1990s. It started out with a donation from the Friends of the Library. They've continued to add money every year since that point, as well as numerous individuals and organizations here in the Florence area. Individuals and organizations like Rotary and Oregon Pacific Bank and Ladies of Yale, they've all contributed funds that have gone into this big pot. Every year we get a little percentage of the interest that was earned that we can spend on books. Now, when I first came in 2000, the amount that we got was really small, and we tended to spend that on like really, really special books, or reference books, or big art books or something that we wouldn't normally have money to spend. Nowadays, we actually get quite a bit of money. We received over $10,000 this year to spend on adult and children's books. And when we buy books through Ingram, we typically get about a 40% discount. So, you know, almost double what we get, we're able to spend on books. Now, because this is invested by Western Lane Community Foundation and the stock market crashed earlier this year, it will be interesting in upcoming years to see how that might affect the interest that we get. I will say, back in about 2008, when we had the Great Recession, the fund just kind of stayed flat for a while. It didn't really drop. So we'll see what happens over the next few years. And it is based upon kind of several years worth of, several quarters worth of earnings. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Okay, we actually, because we get so much money now, we actually start doing some endowment book ordering in the fall, which we did this year, and for maybe about a quarter, and then the 3 quarters we do in the spring. As I'm getting ready and thinking about, oh my God, I have to spend endowment money. for the year, and I'm going to be doing a program typically in June. So this year we were closed for 2 months and we weren't accepting packages. So our book orders really got backed up. So we did order quite a few endowment books once. Staff was back in the library in May. But this is the first time ever that we've actually rolled some of the endowment money over to next year. So next year we'll actually have more money just because we'll get our interest plus whatever got rolled over from this year. It just wasn't possible to spend all the money we had on books. Still, we purchased over 200 adult and children's books this year. For every $600 that a person or an organization contributes to the endowment fund, they get a book plate and a book valued at approximately $30. Now, of course, not all books come out in $30 increments. So we do our best, and I tend to put book plates in. I would rather over-recognize people than under-recognize people. So I do put book plates in every single endowment book, whether it's for individuals, organizations, or the Friends of the Library. And like I said, I tend to over-recognize because I think that's really important. Okay, none of the books that purchased were actually recommended for purchase by any of the donors. We just put people's names in the books. There's a few donors that have kind of specified some general categories like history or cookbooks or something, but for the most part, it's just wide open. Since the books aren't laid out on the tables and you can't really flip through them easily, we've had questions in the past, you know, oh, did so-and-so, you know, they recommended this book, and that's not the way it works. Okay, a big thank you for Friends of the Library member Geraldine McMahon, because Geraldine is a huge insister on having a written typed list of all the book titles. And last year she typed the entire list because I told her, frankly, I don't have time to do it. This year she started typing the list when we bought the books in the fall. And then, of course, she wasn't able to come back in the spring when we started doing it. So this year, at least, I continued to type up the list. So we got the list. But thanks to Geraldine for getting that going. Okay, let's see here. As I said, unlike best books, I really can't give you detailed descriptions about books. Mostly I'm just going to talk about books in certain kinds of categories and show you some covers. And they look backwards to me, but Erin tells me they're right side up for all of you. So I always start with kind of explaining about the Library of America books. So the library purchases just about every edition of the Library of America books that have come out. This was a series that was started in the late 70s or early 80s as an attempt to publish all the great works of American literature. And over the decades, they've done quite a bit of American literature. And there's actually fewer editions coming out each year, I think. But still, there are new ones that come out. Some of them are more contemporary authors and some are older authors. This one is by a woman named Constance Fenimore Woolson. She was a grandniece of James Fenimore Cooper. And she was really popular in the 1800s. She wrote a lot of short stories. And then she was pretty much forgotten. And so the Library of America has republished her short stories. And she's being recognized once again. Some of the other books that we get are stories by Jean Stafford. I've not read Jean Stafford. I remember my mother read short stories by Jean Stafford. More contemporary, of course, Joan Didion. There was a time that in order for the Library of America to publish people's books, you had to be dead. That's not the case anymore, even though she is, because they started publishing like John Updike before he passed away. And there's others they've done. Robert Stone, talking about contemporary authors, now he has passed away. The Library of America has also done some special editions of things. And so one of the things that they've been doing is American science fiction. So this is 4 classic novels from 1960 to 1966. And let's see if we recognize any titles. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes is one of them. So it tends to be, pretty well-known novels. So they've collected in certain editions. So that's Library of America. Okay, now Geraldine is not on our program today, which is unfortunate because she's such a huge cookbook fan. And so I have a lot of cookbooks to show you. So we've got Vegetables Unleashed. Okay. Of course, I shouldn't be showing this, I guess, since I'm kind of hungry right now. But we have things like miso roast asparagus, which looks good. Some kind of Mexican street-style fruit salad, which looks good. Now, with all these cookbooks, frankly, I'd really prefer other people to make these things, and I could just eat them, because I will never get around to cooking these things. But Love and Lemons Every Day, which has got great recipes in it. This one looks really good. Apple Cinnamon Oat Muffins. Chimichurri Potato Salad looks good. So anyway, so we got that one there. This book was really interesting. This is called Jubilee: Recipes from 2 Centuries of African American Cooking. And if you look up the cover on just Google Images, which I wanted to do to put on one of the PowerPoint videos we're doing, the cover is slightly different. It actually has pecan pie, which really attracted me. But this one's not too bad either. It's nice shrimp. It looks really, really good. So this is really kind of a cool book. That was Louisiana Barbecued Shrimp. And of course, here is the Southern Pecan Pie laced with whiskey. That looks really good to me. If anybody wants to make it and drop it off at the library, we have The Joy of Seafood, which is really appropriate for here in Florence. Some kind of international things. We've got Salt and Thyme, Recipes from a Russian Kitchen. Some of these special cookbooks, have a lot of narrative in addition to the recipe. This is one of them. It's got a nice explanation as well as recipe for borscht, if you like both. This is kind of an interesting book. It's called Cook Like a Local: Flavors That Can Change How You Cook and See the World. And the interesting thing about it is the contents. He actually divides it up in kind of a strange way. So his categories are fish sauce, chilies, soy, rice, spices, and corn. And so he talks about different international flavors and things to do with that type of those types of ingredients. So chicken pasole, which is really yummy. That's a good one. One of my favorite ones is Weeknight Baking, which I really should not be doing. Choose Your Own Pumpkin Spice Spread looks really good. That's something I could probably manage. Let's see. This one's kind of different. Black and White Chocolate Chunk Shortbread Cookies. So that looks kind of different. This looks really good. This is called Choose Your Low Berries and Cream Tart. So that looks really good. Then we have Pasta Grannies, Secrets of Italy's Best Home Cooks. So everything you want to know about Italian cooking and pasta, you'll find in here. Very similar to Weeknight Baking, we've got Pastry Love. You can tell where my interest is. This one I really liked. It's called Cedar Plus Salt: Vancouver Island Recipes from Forest, Farm, Field, and Sea. And it also has a lot of text. But they've got things like blueberry lemon thyme breakfast waffles, heirloom tomato and goat cheese platter, This one looks good. Aged cheddar, smoked ham, and apple galette. So that looks really good. We have some books that have to do with food but aren't necessarily cookbooks. So we've got Feasting Wild in Search of the Last Untamed Food, which looks like a really interesting book. Okay, moving on to literature, some of the literature titles besides Library of America. We've got memoirs and essay type things. We've got House Lessons, Renovating a Life. Let's see. This is a novelist. She's written a memoir about the power of home and the transformative act of restoring one house in particular. If you like memoirs and restoring old houses, you'd probably like this book. I'm an author who, in recent days, even though she is long gone from us, that's been getting a lot of attention, I would say probably in the last 10 years, is Zora Neale Hurston, African-American woman. She started writing back in the 20s and 30s. She died in 1960. And I think it's almost been more things published posthumously than at the time she was alive. But she's getting a lot of recognition. This is a book of short stories that they put together. Our Man Down in Havana, the story behind Graham Greene's Cold War spy novel. He wrote Our Man in Havana in 1958, and it was about Havana, Cuba, and a very seedy time before the Cuban Revolution and international intrigue and stuff like that. So this is the background. We were always getting updated classics and translations and things. So here's 52 stories by Anton Chekhov. Chekhov's like the most preeminent short story writer in the history of writing. Okay, moving on to science and natural science. I'll just show you some titles and things. Brian Greene has a new book called Until the End of Time. If you're into physics and that kind of stuff, you'd like that. When the Earth Had Two Moons, Cannibal Planets, Icy Giants, Dirty Comets, Dreadful Orbits, and the Origins of the Night Sky. The Book of Eels, everything you wanted to know about eels. These two are kind of interesting. Snow, a Scientific and Cultural Exploration, and Waters of the World by an author who, I kid you not, her name is Sarah Dry. So one of the programs that we had scheduled for June that we had to cancel due to our pandemic was a presentation by some kind of whale society. They were going to come and talk about orca whales. And it's possible that we'll still have them be able to do a Zoom program. I'm just not sure if that's going to work out. But in anticipation for that, we purchased several new orca books. So there's a book on orca whales. Okay, getting into art, we didn't really buy the huge art books that some years we do. We really haven't done as much in the last few years. They're you tend to be large, expensive books, which are really good for endowment, but we only have so much space and stuff. But here's a great big hefty book called Art Record Covers. So if you're interested in albums and the art that goes into them, then books. More traditional book, American Masterpieces. A book that's not about a particular art per se. It's called Making a Life, Working by Hand and Discovering the Life You Are Meant to Lead, which is really interesting. It talks about a lot of people and the things that they do, such as the woman who does kind of fiber rope type stuff. And this woman who does pottery and stuff. So very interesting. Another area of art that's not a big, beautiful book has to do with movie history. So we have The Big Goodbye, Chinatown, and the Last Years of Hollywood. It's kind of a good book. Book having to do really more probably with the technology and science that got order here. The History of the American Space Shuttle. Great big book. It's got pictures and facts about every space shuttle and mission that took place. This one was really good. This is Wildlife Photographer of the Year, Unforgettable Portraits by Rosamund Kidman Cox. And really, how can you beat that cover? Just love that cover. A few other pictures, just really beautiful. Can you imagine being able to take photos like that? This kind of looks like my house, a squirrel. Some other science and natural science books to point out. Biography of Resistance, the epic battle between people and pathogens. Kind of sounds like our life today. The Falcon Thief, A True Tale of Adventure, Treachery, and the Hunt for the Perfect Bird. I do enjoy bird watching. Here's one called Birder on Berry Lane, 3 acres, 12 months, thousands of birds. I don't have thousands, but I've got quite a few birds in mine. Some assembly required, decoding 4 billion years of life from ancient fossils DNA. Very similar, Unraveling the Double Helix, the Story of DNA. So if you want the science behind it. Another animal book, Cattail, The Wild Weird Battle to Save the Florida Panther. Kind of in the miscellaneous category, we've got Adventure Roads of Oregon. So if you like to take drives, this is a great book that tells you all kinds of places to go and things to see, and it's got beautiful photos and maps. Some Oregon history, political. I got a book by Les Bachlein, who is an Oregon congressman. So that's that. History and biography. A couple of new Lincoln books. Sidney Blumenthal is writing The Political History of Abraham Lincoln. So this is the latest one. All the Powers of Earth, 1856 to 1860. I know Meg is a big Lincoln fan, so she'll want to read that one. Also, and we had somebody request this, Lincoln on the Verge, 13 Days to Washington. Got that. More contemporary biography, Sontag. Of course, there's no title on the front. You have to see it on the side. The Cartiers, The Untold Story of the Family Behind the Jewelry Empire. Mary Ball Washington. Probably never read a biography of George Washington's mother. Lady in Waiting, My Extraordinary Life in the Shadow of the Crown by Anne Glenconner. She was the lady in waiting to Princess Margaret for decades and decades. So she was really tied into the royal family. And she's an older lady now, but she's written her reminiscences, which are always fun. A gentleman who walked all across a good part of California, a young guy, has written Alta California, from San Diego to San Francisco, a journey on foot to rediscover the Golden State. Enjoy that. The Other Madisons, The Lost History of a President's Black Family. Kind of goes along with A Black Women's History of the United States. Bernard Bailyn has written a lot of books over his many, many decades as a historian. And now he's written kind of a memoir, a bunch of memoirs called Illuminating History. His specialty was the American Revolution and colonial America. So this should be a really good book to read. Then some just individual topics. We've got The Golden Thread, How Fabric Changed History. Got some books about World War II. We actually had one that we purchased that was so popular that I couldn't even save it for this program because the gentleman in particular who wanted it, I had to get it to him because we needed it. Smithsonian World War II map by map atlas. So if you're into history, you'll probably like this. I love maps, and so, you know, maps having to do with, you know, World War II and stuff, they're just really fascinating to me. Okay, just about done with the main books. Here's another one I'll mention though, Atlas of the National Parks. Again, if you're into maps, like I am, it covers national parks and then it's got really nice maps and tells you all kinds of special things about the parks. So, huge book. It's a big, beautiful book. I might like that one. Another biography, and somebody actually requested this too. Cross of Snow, A Life of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, just came out this year. So got that. And let's see. Didn't get a lot of gardening books this year, but we did get Planting the Natural Garden. So you gardeners might be interested in that. A couple other cookbooks I'll mention before we end here. Whole Food Cooking Every Day. The Whole Fish Cookbook. I kind of joke with Aaron about this one because I'm not sure that I really want to do anything with fish heads, but it shows you all their internal organs. So we have that. Several books on the history of the United States around the time of the Revolution. We've got The Boston Massacre, A Family History. I actually thought maybe that was like the family history of the author, but she's actually looking at several unknown people in Boston at the time of the Boston Massacre, and she's tracing women and families and stuff. So it looks like it would be a really interesting book. A story of Stephen Hopkins, the man who survived Jamestown and saved Plymouth. So he was in both early English colonies. 1774, the long year of the Revolution. So a couple of new editions of books that we have prior editions to. How to Cook Everything. Actually, I have a copy of this at home, but it's a prior edition. So this is the latest one of that. And I'll also point out Essentials of Classic Italian. So that's not in print. And for those of you who like different things, cook with different things, here we've got nut butter. Over 50 clean and simple recipes to fuel a healthy lifestyle. So it's interesting. So, you know, I think that's kind of some of the highlights this year. Like I said, this is a really odd year because normally I have these spread out on tables and you could just take a look at everything that's on my cards. You might actually see that I have a card there that's full. I've got a card over here that's full. And so I can't go through them all. But I hope that's given you some ideas of some of the books we have. Take a look at the list, either online or pick up a hard copy here at the library. And if we run out of hard copies and we don't notice it, just give us an email because we've got plenty of ones we can make. So I think that's about it as far as the endowment goes this year. It's a very odd program. So, Erin?
Thanks, Kevin. Now I've seen a lot of books that I want to read. So yeah, so like I said, we'll have this video online later. We'll also have the book list. And just a reminder, if anybody's not using our curbside service yet, we are happy to pick you some endowment books. You can either go through the list and pick out your own, or just call and say, I'd like some interesting nonfiction books. We would be delighted to choose a few for you and put them out on the curb. So does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to unmute everyone in case anybody wants to ask anything. Oh, thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
All right, well, not seeing any questions, feel free to get in touch with us later. We're happy to talk to you about the books or how we select them or help you pick some out or whatever you would like. And so
and we're also pulling fun.
Yes, yeah, we'll get you up to 5 now with our curbside service at a time. So you can either do it online or you can give us a call and during curbside pickup hours. It's all on our website. So thank you so much. Oh, Meg says she's hungry now. Me too. You can tell we really like cookbooks here, but they're popular.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
everybody.
Thanks.
Have a great day.